What if the most profound discoveries and untold stories of human civilization are locked away in places no one has ever found? Are you ready to challenge everything you thought you knew about history and dive deep into the legendary lost libraries that hold the keys to forgotten knowledge? Prepare to have your mind open to the possibility of hidden intellectual treasure troves. Welcome to the Forgotten File. Imagine a world where entire libraries, filled with ancient secrets and unparalleled knowledge, simply vanished. Not just a few books lost to time, but whole collections, thousands, sometimes millions, of scrolls and manuscripts gone in a single moment, or slowly erased by the relentless march of history. Today, we're diving into history's greatest intellectual disappearances, exploring the lost libraries that once held the wisdom of the world. Let's set the stage. Picture the ancient world, bustling cities, grand temples, and, at the heart of it all, libraries, repositories of human thought, innovation, and imagination. These were not just rooms filled with books. They were living centers of learning where scholars debated, discoveries were made, the boundaries of knowledge were pushed ever further. In an age before the internet, before even the printing press, libraries were the beating heart of civilization. But as powerful as these libraries were, they were also fragile. Fire, war, neglect, and even politics could wipe out centuries of accumulated wisdom in a matter of hours. The loss of a library was more than just the loss of books. It was the loss of ideas, of progress, of the very memory of who we are. From the ashes of Alexandria to the shifting sands of Timbuktu, countless repositories of human thought have been lost to time, war, or disaster. Some were destroyed in dramatic, fiery cataclysms. Others faded away quietly, their contents scattered or forgotten. Each loss left a hole in our collective memory, a gap that we may never fully fill. But what exactly did we lose? What priceless insights did these vanished libraries hold? What scientific breakthroughs, philosophical treatises, or artistic masterpieces did humanity lose forever? The allure of the unknown is powerful. It's what draws archaeologists to dig in the desert, what inspires historians to pore over crumbling manuscripts, and what keeps us all wondering, what if? Let's begin our journey by exploring the allure of the unknown. Imagine walking through the ruins of an ancient city, knowing that beneath your feet, buried in the earth, could be the lost works of a genius text that might have changed the course of history if only they had survived. The sense of possibility is intoxicating. Every lost library is a mystery, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Consider the Library of Alexandria, perhaps the most famous lost library of all. It was said to contain the collected knowledge of the ancient world works of science, philosophy, literature, and more. Some legends claim it held over 500,000 scrolls, including treatises by Aristotle, Euclid, and Archimedes. What if some of those texts contained discoveries that could have advanced human civilization by centuries? What if the secrets of lost technologies, forgotten medicines, or even the true story of our origins were hidden in those vanished shelves? But Alexandria is just the beginning. Across the world, from the Buddhist libraries of Nalanda in India to the royal archives of Assyria, from the scrolls of Herculaneum buried by Vesuvius to the manuscripts of Timbuktu threatened by war, the story of lost libraries is a global one. Each has its own tale of glory and tragedy, of knowledge gained and lost. The loss of these libraries is not just a story of destruction, it's a story of what might have been. Imagine if the works of Hypatia, the brilliant mathematician and philosopher of Alexandria, had survived. How might our understanding of mathematics and astronomy be different today? Or if the Buddhist texts of Nalanda, some of which are said to have contained advanced theories of medicine and psychology, had not been burned by invading armies? What if the lost plays of Sophocles, the missing books of Livy's History of Rome, or the secret treatises of alchemists and inventors had made it through the centuries? The truth is, we'll never know exactly what was lost. But the very fact that we wonder is a testament to the power of these vanished libraries. They haunt our imagination, reminding us that history is not just a record of what survived, but also of what was lost. And yet, the story of lost libraries is not just about the past, it's about the present and the future. In our own time, we face new threats to knowledge: digital decay, censorship, and the fragility of our own information networks. The lessons of history are clear. Knowledge is precious, but it is also vulnerable. If we are not careful, we could lose as much as our ancestors did. So, as we begin this journey into the world of lost libraries, let's keep our minds open to the possibilities. Let's imagine what might still be out there, waiting to be discovered. Let's remember that every lost library is a challenge, a call to curiosity, to exploration, and to the preservation of knowledge for future generations. In the next part of our story, we'll travel to the ancient city of Alexandria, where the greatest library of the ancient world once stood. We'll explore its rise, its tragic fall, and the enduring mystery of what was lost when its shelves went up in flames. The story of Alexandria is a story of ambition, of brilliance, and of the fragility of human achievement. Are you ready to step into the shadows of history and uncover the secrets of the world's most legendary lost library? Stay with us as we journey into the heart of the ancient world, where the whisper of vanished wisdom still echoes through the ages. The story of lost libraries is filled with legends, but none loom larger than the Library of Alexandria. If you close your eyes and imagine the ancient world's greatest center of learning, it's Alexandria that comes to mind, a city where the world's wisdom was gathered, studied, and ultimately lost. Let's travel back more than 2,000 years to the bustling port city of Alexandria on Egypt's Mediterranean coast. Founded by Alexander the Great, Alexandria quickly became a crossroads of cultures, ideas, and ambition. At its heart stood the Library of Alexandria, a beacon that drew scholars from every corner of the known world. Imagine walking through its grand colonnades, past marble statues and sunlit courtyards, into vast halls lined with shelves upon shelves of papyrus scrolls. The air would have been thick with the scent of ink and parchment, the quiet hum of debate, and the excitement of discovery. The library wasn't just a building, it was an idea. It was the first true research institution, a place where knowledge was not only stored but actively pursued. The rulers of Alexandria, the Ptolemies, were obsessed with collecting every book, scroll, and scrap of wisdom they could find. Ships arriving in the city's harbor were searched for books, which were then copied for the library's collection. Scholars were invited from Greece, Persia, India, and beyond, given stipends and lodging, and encouraged to share their knowledge. Within these walls, some of the greatest minds of antiquity worked and taught. Euclid, the father of geometry, wrote his elements here. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the earth with astonishing accuracy. Archimedes' hero and countless others pushed the boundaries of mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and philosophy. The library was a melting pot of ideas where Greek, Egyptian, Persian, Jewish, and Indian traditions mingled and sparked new discoveries. But the Library of Alexandria was more than just a storehouse of scrolls. It was a symbol of human ambition, the belief that all knowledge could be gathered, organized, and understood. It was a place where the mysteries of the universe were debated, where the stars were charted, and where the first steps toward the scientific method were taken. Yet for all its glory, the library's fate remained shrouded in mystery. How could such a treasure trove of knowledge simply vanish? Theories about its destruction abound, each more dramatic than the last. Some say it was burned accidentally by Julius Caesar's troops during the siege of Alexandria in 48 BCE, when fire from the harbor spread to the city. Others blame later Roman emperors, who may have seen the library as a threat to their power or as a den of pagan learning. Still others point to religious conflict, Christian zealots or Muslim conquerors, who may have destroyed what they saw as heretical texts. But the truth is likely more complicated. Many historians now believe the library's end was not a single fiery catastrophe, but a slow decline over centuries. Political turmoil, economic hardship, and changing attitudes toward learning all played a part. Scrolls decayed, were stolen, or simply neglected. The library may have suffered multiple fires, each one erasing a little more of its legacy. By the time the last scholars left, the shelves were already bare. What did we lose when the Library of Alexandria fell? The answer is almost impossible to imagine. Ancient sources claim the library held hundreds of thousands of scrolls, works of science, philosophy, literature, and history, many of which existed nowhere else. Some of the greatest works of antiquity are known to us only by name or through fragments quoted by later authors. The lost plays of Sophocles, the missing books of Livy's History of Rome, the treatises of Hypatia, and the secret teachings of the Pythagoreans all may have vanished in Alexandria's flames. But it's not just the famous names that haunt us. What about the unknown geniuses, the forgotten inventors, the lost languages and cultures that never made it into the history books? What if the library contained medical knowledge that could have saved lives, or scientific theories that might have changed the course of civilization? What if the secrets of ancient technologies, lost arts, or even the true story of humanity's origins were hidden in those vanished scrolls? The loss of the Library of Alexandria is more than a historical tragedy. It's a symbol of the fragility of knowledge itself. It reminds us that progress is not inevitable, that wisdom can be lost as easily as it is gained. It's a warning that the treasures of the mind are as vulnerable as any city or temple, and that the flames of ignorance can consume even the brightest lights. Yet the story of Alexandria is also a story of resilience. Some of its scholars and their works survived, carried to other cities and other libraries. The dream of gathering and preserving knowledge lived on, inspiring later generations to build their own centers of learning from Baghdad's House of Wisdom to the great universities of Europe and Asia. The idea that knowledge is worth saving, that it belongs to all humanity, is a legacy that endures to this day. As we reflect on the grandest loss in the history of libraries, we're left with a sense of awe and a touch of melancholy. The Library of Alexandria was a beacon that shone for centuries, then flickered out, leaving us to wonder what might have been. Its story is a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is both noble and perilous, that every generation must fight to preserve what it has learned, and that the greatest treasures are sometimes those we can never recover. But Alexandria is not the only lost library. Across the world, other repositories of wisdom have vanished, some in fire and violence, others in silence and neglect. In the next part of our journey, we'll travel to the lesser-known but equally fascinating lost libraries of Pergamum, Nalanda, and Herculaneum. We'll discover the rivalries, the miracles of survival, and the ongoing quest to recover what was lost. So as we leave the echoing halls of Alexandria behind, let's remember that the story of lost libraries is far from over. The search for vanished wisdom continues, and the next chapter may be waiting just beneath the sands, the ashes, or the pages of a forgotten book. As we leave behind the echoing marble halls and tragic legacy of Alexandria, our journey into the world's lost libraries takes us to other corners of the ancient world, places where knowledge once flourished only to be scattered by the winds of history. While Alexandria's loss is the most famous, it is far from the only story of vanished wisdom. Across continents and centuries, other libraries rose to greatness, only to fall into ruin, their treasures lost or buried, their stories waiting to be rediscovered. Let's begin in the ancient city of Pergamum, in what is now modern-day Turkey. In the shadow of Alexandria's fame, Pergamum built its own library, determined to rival the Egyptian capital as the intellectual heart of the Hellenistic world. The Library of Pergamum was said to have held over 200,000 scrolls, a staggering collection for its time. Its halls were filled with scholars, poets, and philosophers, all drawn by the city's reputation for learning and innovation. But Pergamum's story is not just one of scholarship, it is also a tale of rivalry and invention. The rulers of Pergamum and Alexandria competed fiercely to collect the rarest and most valuable texts. According to legend, the Ptolemies of Egypt, jealous of Pergamum's growing prestige, banned the export of papyrus, the essential writing material of the day. In response, Pergamum's scholars developed a new medium, parchment, made from animal skins. This innovation not only allowed their library to thrive, but also changed the course of bookmaking forever. Parchment would become the standard for manuscripts across Europe and the Middle East for centuries to come. Yet, like Alexandria, Pergamum's library could not escape the tides of history. Wars, invasions, and the slow decay of time took their toll. Some say that Mark Antony, in a grand gesture of love, gave Pergamum's entire collection to Cleopatra to help replenish Alexandria's shelves after one of its many fires. Whether true or not, the fate of Pergamum's scrolls remains a mystery. What is certain is that the library, once a beacon of learning, eventually faded into obscurity, its treasures lost or scattered. From the Mediterranean, our journey takes us east to the plains of northern India, where the great Buddhist University of Nalanda once stood. Founded in the 5th century CE, Nalanda was more than just a library. It was a vast monastic complex, home to thousands of monks, teachers, and students from across Asia. For centuries, Nalanda was a center of Buddhist learning, philosophy, medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. Its libraries were said to contain hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, some of which held advanced theories and spiritual insights that were centuries ahead of their time. Nalanda's influence stretched far beyond India. Chinese pilgrims like Xuanzang traveled thousands of miles to study there, carrying back precious texts that would shape the development of Buddhism in East Asia. The university's scholars debated the nature of reality, the workings of the mind, and the mysteries of the cosmos. Nalanda was a place where ideas flowed freely, where knowledge was shared and preserved for future generations. But in the 12th century, disaster struck. Invading armies swept across northern India, and Nalanda became a target. The libraries were set ablaze, and the flames are said to have burned for months. So vast was the collection of manuscripts. The destruction of Nalanda was not just the loss of a building, but the erasure of an entire intellectual tradition. Centuries of accumulated wisdom, philosophical treatises, medical texts, scientific discoveries were reduced to ash. The loss was so profound that some historians believe it set back the progress of science and philosophy in the region for generations. Yet, even in destruction, Nalanda's legacy endured. Fragments of its teachings survived in distant lands, carried by monks and pilgrims who escaped the flames. Today, archaeologists and scholars are working to piece together what remains, uncovering the foundations of the ancient university and searching for lost manuscripts in remote monasteries and libraries across Asia. Our journey now takes us to the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, to the Roman town of Herculaneum. In 79 CE, the eruption of Vesuvius buried Herculaneum and its more famous neighbor, Pompeii, under a thick layer of volcanic ash. For centuries, the town lay forgotten, its secrets preserved in darkness. But in the 18th century, excavations revealed a remarkable discovery: the Villa of the Papyri, a luxurious Roman home with a private library. Unlike the libraries of Alexandria and Nalanda, the scrolls of Herculaneum were not lost to fire or war, but to nature's fury. The intense heat and ash carbonized the papyrus scrolls, turning them into fragile, blackened cylinders. For a long time, these scrolls were thought to be unreadable, too delicate to unroll, too damaged to decipher. But in recent years, advances in technology have given scholars new hope. Using multispectral imaging and X-ray scanning, researchers are slowly, painstakingly, revealing the texts hidden within these ancient scrolls. The process is slow and difficult, but the rewards are immense. The Herculaneum papyri include works of philosophy, poetry, and science, some by authors whose writings were thought to be lost forever. Each new word uncovered is a small victory against the silence of history, a reminder that even in the face of disaster, knowledge can sometimes survive. These stories of Pergamum's rivalry, Nalanda's destruction, Herculaneum's miraculous survival remind us that the fate of knowledge is never certain. Libraries can rise and fall, their treasures lost or found, their stories forgotten or rediscovered. But the quest to recover what was lost continues. Driven by the same curiosity and determination that built these libraries in the first place. As we look back on these vanished repositories of wisdom, we are left with a sense of both loss and hope. Loss for the countless works that may never be recovered. Hope for the possibility that somewhere, hidden in the earth or preserved in a forgotten monastery, fragments of this lost knowledge still await discovery. In the next part of our journey, we'll turn to the modern quest to find what remains. We'll explore how archaeologists, scientists, and digital pioneers are using cutting-edge technology to recreate lost libraries, recover ancient texts, and bring the wisdom of the past back to life. The story of lost libraries is not just about what we lost it, it's about what we might still find. So, as we leave the ruins of Pergamum, the ashes of Nalanda, and the buried scrolls of Herculaneum behind, let's remember that the search for vanished wisdom is far from over. The next chapter may be written not in ink or parchment, but in pixels and code. As we continue the quest to unlock the secrets of history's greatest lost libraries, the story of lost libraries is not just a tale of ancient ruins and vanished scrolls. It's also a story of the present and the future. Even as we mourn what has been lost, we are living in an age where the quest to recover, reconstruct, and rediscover the wisdom of the past is more alive than ever. Today, archaeologists, scientists, and digital pioneers are using tools that would have seemed like magic to the scholars of Alexandria or Nalanda. The search for vanished knowledge has entered a new era. Imagine standing in a laboratory, surrounded by computers, scanners, and microscopes. Here, the work of recovering lost texts is painstaking and high-tech. In one corner, a team is using multispectral imaging to read the charred scrolls of Herculaneum scrolls that for centuries were thought to be nothing more than blackened lumps of ash. By shining different wavelengths of light on the papyrus, they can reveal ink invisible to the naked eye, slowly bringing ancient words back to life. Each new letter, each deciphered phrase, is a small miracle of voice from the past, speaking again after 2,000 years of silence. Elsewhere, digital archaeologists are recreating lost libraries in virtual space, using fragments of manuscripts, references in other texts, and even the architectural remains of ancient buildings. They are building digital models of what these libraries might have looked like. Imagine donning a virtual reality headset and walking through the halls of Alexandria, seeing the shelves lined with scrolls, hearing the echoes of ancient debates. These digital reconstructions are not just for show. They help scholars understand how knowledge was organized, how ideas spread, and how the physical space of a library shaped the intellectual life of a civilization. But the quest for lost knowledge isn't limited to the lab or the computer. In the deserts of Egypt, the jungles of Central America, and the monasteries of Tibet, archaeologists and explorers are still unearthing new clues. Sometimes a single discovery can change everything. In 1945, a farmer in Egypt stumbled upon a sealed jar containing the Nag Hammadi. Library 13 ancient codices filled with early Christian and Gnostic texts that had been lost for centuries. In the caves near the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, shedding new light on the world of the Bible and the origins of Judaism and Christianity. Even in the digital age, the thrill of discovery is as powerful as ever. In Mali, the ancient city of Timbuktu was once home to thousands of manuscripts, many of which were hidden away during times of conflict. In recent years, local families and scholars have risked their lives to save these texts from destruction, smuggling them out of danger and working to preserve them for future generations. Each rescued manuscript is a victory against the forces of ignorance and violence, a reminder that the fight to save knowledge is never over. Technology is also opening new doors. Artificial intelligence is being used to help decipher ancient scripts, reconstruct damaged texts, and even predict where lost manuscripts might be found. Machine learning algorithms can scan thousands of fragments and match them to known works, piecing together puzzles that would take humans decades to solve. In some cases, AI has helped scholars read texts that were previously thought to be hopelessly damaged, revealing new insights into the literature, science, and philosophy of the past. Underwater archaeology is another frontier. Off the coast of Egypt, divers have discovered the sunken remains of ancient cities, complete with temples, statues, and sometimes fragments of lost texts. The possibility that more libraries or at least parts of their collections might be waiting beneath the waves is an exciting one. As technology improves, who knows what secrets the sea might yield. But the quest to recover lost knowledge is not just about finding old books. It's about understanding the context in which they were created, the people who wrote and read them, and the world they inhabited. Every manuscript, every fragment is a window into a vanished world. By piecing together these clues, we can begin to reconstruct not just the contents of lost libraries, but the intellectual life of entire civilizations. Recent archaeological discoveries continue to offer tantalizing glimpses into these lost archives. In the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform script have revealed everything from epic poetry to legal codes to astronomical observations. In China, the discovery of the Mawandui tombs yielded silk manuscripts containing medical texts, maps, and philosophical treatises. In the sands of Egypt, the Oxyrhynchus papyrus, over 500,000 fragments of ancient texts are still being studied, with new works being identified every year. The future of discovery is bright. As technology advances, We may one day be able to read texts that are currently inaccessible, sealed inside scrolls too fragile to unroll, or written in inks that have faded to invisibility. AI-assisted decryption, advanced imaging, and even DNA analysis of parchment and papyrus could unlock secrets we can only dream of today. The next great breakthrough might come from a forgotten storeroom, a remote monastery, or the depths of the ocean. But as we marvel at these possibilities, we should also remember the lessons of the past. The impermanence of knowledge is a constant theme in the story of lost libraries. For every text that is recovered, countless others have vanished forever. The fragility of human memory, the dangers of war and neglect, and the relentless march of time all threaten the treasures we hold most dear. That's why the work of preservation is so important. In an age where information is more abundant, and more vulnerable than ever, the lessons of Alexandria, Nalanda, and Timbuktu are more relevant than ever. We must protect our libraries, our archives, and our digital records, not just for ourselves, but for the generations yet to come. As we look to the future, the quest for lost knowledge continues. The story of lost libraries is not just about what we have lost, but about what we might still find. It's a story of hope, of curiosity, and of the enduring human drive to seek out the unknown. In the final part of our journey, we'll reflect on why lost libraries still matter, on the legacy of absence, the importance of preservation, and the enduring mystery that keeps us searching. We'll ask what these vanished repositories can teach us about ourselves and why the allure of lost knowledge will never fade. So, as we stand on the threshold of discovery, let's remember that the greatest treasures are sometimes those we have yet to find. The next chapter in the story of lost libraries is waiting to be written. It might just begin with you. The story of lost libraries is, at its heart, a story about the impermanence of knowledge. For every scroll that has survived, for every manuscript that has been rescued from the ashes, there are countless others that have vanished forever, lost to fire, flood, war, neglect, or simply the slow decay of time. As we look back on the vanished halls of Alexandria, the smoldering ruins of Nalanda, the buried scrolls of Herculaneum, and the hidden manuscripts of Timbuktu, we are reminded that human wisdom is both precious and fragile. It's easy to take knowledge for granted in our digital age. With a few taps on a screen, we can access more information than the scholars of Alexandria could have dreamed of. But this abundance can be deceptive. Just as the great libraries of the past were vulnerable to disaster, so too are our modern archives. Hard drives fail, websites disappear, and digital files can be lost in an instant. The lessons of history are clear. If we do not actively preserve our knowledge, we risk losing it sometimes without even realizing it's gone. The legacy of lost libraries is not just about what we have lost, but about what we have learned. These vanished repositories remind us that knowledge is not a static thing, but a living, breathing process. It must be nurtured, protected, and passed on. The destruction of a library is not just the loss of books, but the silencing of voices, the erasure of ideas, and the breaking of a chain that connects us to our ancestors and to future generations. But there is another side to this story, a side filled with hope and inspiration. The very fact that we mourn the loss of these libraries shows how much we value knowledge. The efforts of archaeologists, scholars, and ordinary people to recover lost texts, to reconstruct vanished worlds, and to preserve what remains are acts of defiance against the forces of ignorance and oblivion. Every manuscript saved, every scroll deciphered, every digital archive created is a victory for the human spirit. Lost libraries also remind us of the power of curiosity, the allure of the unknown, the possibility that somewhere, hidden in a forgotten storeroom or buried beneath the sands, lies a text that could change our understanding of the world, keeps us searching, questioning, and exploring. It's this curiosity that drives discovery, that fuels innovation, and that ensures the story of lost libraries is never truly over. So why do lost libraries still matter? Because they teach us humility. They remind us that no matter how much we know, there is always more to learn. They challenge us to protect what we have, to seek out what we've lost, and to imagine what might still be waiting to be found. They show us that history is not just a record of what survived, but also a map of what was lost, and that sometimes the greatest mysteries are those we can never fully solve. In a world where information is more abundant and more vulnerable than ever, The story of lost libraries is a call to action. It's a reminder to value the archives, libraries, and digital repositories that safeguard our collective memory. It's a challenge to support the work of preservation, to champion open access to knowledge, and to ensure that the wisdom of the past is not lost to the future. But it's also an invitation to curiosity, to wonder, and to the joy of discovery. The next great find could be just around the corner. A forgotten manuscript in a monastery, a buried scroll in an ancient city, or a digital file waiting to be decrypted. The story of lost libraries is not just about what we have lost, but about what we might still find, if we keep searching. As we close this journey through the vanished halls and hidden shelves of history, let's remember that the greatest library is not a building or a collection of books, but the human mind itself. Every question we ask, every story we tell, every effort we make to preserve and share knowledge adds another page to the book of humanity. So, what can you do? Start by exploring the archives and libraries near you. Support efforts to digitize and preserve rare texts. Share stories of lost knowledge with others, and never stop asking questions. The next chapter in the story of lost libraries could begin with your curiosity, your passion, and your commitment to keeping the flame of wisdom alive. If you've enjoyed this journey into the world's greatest intellectual mysteries, please like this video, subscribe to The Forgotten File, and join the conversation in the comments below. What lost library or vanished text would you most like to see rediscovered? What do you think we can learn from the stories of what was lost? Thank you for joining us on this exploration of history's hidden treasures. Remember, the past is never truly gone, as long as we keep searching for its echoes and as long as we keep the spirit of curiosity alive.